Hello everybody, I am back from Austin where I was filming a movie. Once again, that's all I can say. I'm trying to fill in my beard a little bit to get back to what normal is. So just give it a little more time. It'll be like nothing ever happened in the first place. We're shooting this a little bit later in the day on Monday because we had shot something earlier, and in light of the horrible events that are happening in Boston, I thought I might step back from a soapbox. This isn't a day to proselytize or to admonish or anything like that. And obviously all of us here at Rev3 Games are thinking about those who have been affected by what happened out in Boston, and hopefully it will only get better from this point going forward. So what we're gonna do today, questions, of which you have very, very many. And so we're gonna start with our first one from Tyler Con, or Connie. If I did something wrong with that, my apologies. I cannot parse internet. Mr. Sessler, it's a pleasure to hear you again after many years of swearing off cable TV and missing out on, quote, that one show. Question. Many military and military-like games use modern-ish wars and big political or economic plays for their stories. These, however, are usually just vehicles to move the player from level to level. Why do you think this is? Are military games capable of the kind of characterization seen in games like BioShock Infinite? Can they be profound or moving? I love this question. There's no quick and easy answer on it. I know when you mean by military or military-ish games. Let's look at the two big ones, Call of Duty and Battlefield. When you have seen a military-like game that has, at least is trying to move into a narrative that has a little bit more depth, a little bit more interest, I would go to Spec Ops: The Line. Like it or not, it was going in a different direction, but once again, that was somewhat contemporary, but had to move a little bit into the fantasy, into the near future to really draw out that story. The tension seems to be that if you're dealing with very contemporary events, say like the Middle East, and it's dealing with American soldiers, there's that uncomfortable feeling that there are people out there in real life who are serving, who are dying, who are getting hurt, and you're kind of turning it for people who are back home and their sense of entertainment. But then when you try to move it further and further into the fanciful, as we see, say, with Black Ops 2, and really with Modern Warfare 3, you're divorcing yourself from the actual real-life events that you could be commentating on. I don't know if that's necessarily why we're not seeing the strongest of narratives coming out of the military shooters, but I think there's a sense of discomfort. How close to the bubble do you actually want to get? Yes, I do think that you can have that narrative. I go back to a game that was announced and nothing came of it, which was 6 Days in Fallujah. This was going to come out from Konami. It was going to be worked on by numerous people who served in the Marines during those 6 days, that siege of Fallujah, because they really wanted to use the interactive medium to tell that story. And I was really taken by that because I get what that means. That just sort of being interviewed by a reporter or writing your own memoir about those experiences, yes, that can convey what it was like, but because they were of a generation, they had grown up playing video games, and they were aware that there are certain unique properties to the game to really convey that experience by putting you in the more immediate presence of it. I do think that potential is there. I think the problem is, and I'm not faulting developers for this, but they don't have that insight, that wealth of experience to really take advantage of what the medium can do to convey something that particular. And without that, the risk to do something that might seem crass, that might seem offensive, that might seem thoughtless to those who are actually serving, and just kind of the comfort of the player themselves is so large that it's much safer to do things that are more sci-fi, that are more action movie oriented. That's what we tend to be getting with our Battlefield 3s and our Modern Warfares. All right, question number 2, and this comes from Interplay Fan. When it comes to reviews that give numerical scores, do you find it hard to decide where to add, subtract points because your personal feelings about a certain game element conflict with the way you grade as a critic? I guess the closest relative example would be in the form of nitpicks. Do you think it would be a good idea to do 2 separate scores if you felt that it affected the experience in one form more so than the other? Once again, thank you, Interplay Fan. I'm assuming you're dating yourself if you're a fan of Interplay. You know, I'm going to go online to Signosis Fan and see how people respond to that. I'm not going to answer that much of the specifics of the question, but it does bring something up, which is an understanding of review scores, at least how we review here. The score is not what I'm thinking about when I'm playing the game. I'm thinking about how to sort of explicate the experience and describe it. And eventually, I want to come up with a numerical shorthand just so I give someone an idea like where I liked it. The score is not a grading system, and I love the fact that you use that term because I think there's something about how we go to school and the way that we're evaluated with what we regarded, especially at the time, as an objective reading of the work that we presented. And I think that's something that gets so ingrained and embedded in us that that's how we look at review scores going forward. That there is this sense, be it rational or in the forefront of our mind or not, that that is somehow an objective evaluation, and that number supersedes any of the text, or in the case of us, the VO that precedes it. I think it's actually a fundamental flaw I've always felt in the American academic system. When we teach people how to write essays, we're always like, oh, you have your opening paragraph and you have that thesis sentence at the end of the first paragraph, which is going to state the argument that you're going to prove, which I've always thought is kind of a waste of time to read past that first paragraph because you pretty much said, this will be propaganda in order to prove the point that's in my sentence at the end of my first paragraph. That's not how I or we do reviews, and it really is not good criticism. This idea that you need to have this one-to-one correlation, like I have this opinion and I back it up with this. Of course, opinions need to be based in the fact and the experience, but it's not something as regimented as that. And I really admonish all of you not to look at least our reviews from that viewpoint. Read the text, get to know the reviewer, see what he or she doesn't like. If I say I don't like something, that doesn't mean you don't get to like it. That means you can assume that if I don't like that and that's something I never like and you like it, ignore it. It really is to open up a discussion, a critical evaluation. Criticism does not mean just giving an opinion. It means investigating something and finding its worth. I have always said it never makes me happy that you reduce that to a number, but that's why we have a 1 to 5 scale. If it got any more beyond that, it starts to sound like it's a factual evaluation, an objective evaluation of the merits of the game. And once again, it's art and it's all a matter of opinion. All right, that's it for SESSLERS Something. Please leave more questions below. I really do enjoy going through them. I also want to let you know, Address the SES this week. We're doing it. It's in Google Hangouts. We're going to do it at 7 p.m. Eastern. That's also 4 p.m. Pacific. Please come and try to join. We're going to have the link. It should be right below here. Also, we're going to have Andy Schatz, the maker of the long-awaited indie game Monaco. He's going to be joining us. We should have a very interesting discussion about what's happening on the indie game scene and what, like someone in his position, they have to go through to get the games into our itching hands.